Hello, I'm hoping there's somebody watching at the moment. I'm just doing my regular sound and vision check. If you can hear me and you can see me, hi, then I'd be grateful if you could just pop a comment in the live chat so we know everything's working, and I'll be with you at the bottom of the hour. See you shortly. Good evening, folks. Welcome to In Studio Live, the 55th edition on this week 49 of doing the show. So welcome. Let's get started straight away. Yeah, it's a cold evening. I've noticed in the chat at least one person commenting about how cold it is. It's a bit chilly here in the studio, but I've got the fan heater on. Hopefully it won't be too intrusive, and hopefully we'll have a good show. So, if you're new here, first time watching, then please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notifications of future live streams and other videos coming up to the channel. Please leave me some comments if you're watching this on replay, and if you're watching it live or on replay, just go and hit the like button. It's a nice way of sending a signal to YouTube that this is a video worth watching, and I appreciate it when you do that. It doesn't cost you anything to do that, but it really does help me on there. And as ever, my thanks to everyone who's been sharing the links to the show and letting people know about it. So we are twice weekly, certainly for the time being, till the end of February. Then I'm going to review whether going twice weekly is working. I noticed the numbers are a little low tonight. We've only got 7 watching as I'm talking to you, which is not as many as I would like, put it that way. But if people are watching on the replay, then it doesn't matter on there. But the Sunday night ones, which we had a good number on Sunday, and thank you for those of you who were watching there. Those are tutorial based, Q&A focused, things like that. And here on Wednesday, we're more looking at feedback, looking at your images and letting you know about those. And in addition to that, I'm putting out a little bit of Lightroom tutorial stuff and Photoshop tutorial as part of the Wednesday night live streams. And I've got that accursed message on my screen saying YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Don't know whether it's true or not, but sorry if that's what's actually happening. I don't know there's a lot I can do about it, to be perfectly honest. Right, well, anyway, about the shows, I'm sure most of you know this already if you've been watching. They are on YouTube for a while. Eventually I will cut them down, put the full versions in the Academy, and leave the extracts and the highlights here on YouTube across my 3 channels. The channel you're watching at the moment, the Learn Lightroom channel, and my travel photography channel. Links to those are on my YouTube page, so go and sign up for those as well. I have a Facebook group. That's the link to it. I'm sure you probably are aware of that. That's where we carry on the conversation during the week. It's where a lot of the images for the feedback session come from. And generally, it's a place where you can share your images, you can get feedback from them, you can take part in photo challenges, and you can find out what's coming up on here. The yellow banner's gone. Good. If you do find the shows helpful and you want to say thank you in a financial way, absolutely no obligation to do so. But if you want to, then there's the link. It's buymeatea.com/Ian Butty. The link again down below. And I try and say thanks to everyone who has done that. And tonight's cuppa comes courtesy of my studio neighbour, Rick Bradbury. Cheers, Rick. And thanks for the Jaffa cakes as well. So the rest of you got competition there. He sent me Jaffa cakes. Came over with them. Special. Right. Anyway, I also have a newsletter. Again, link down below. But what have we got on the show tonight? Well, I still haven't got that giveaway video done, but I will just mention it again very briefly. I'm going to look at your emailed images because I give priority to those. I'm going to do a Photoshop Basics tutorial. I should say number 2 on it, not number 1. Anyway, it is number 2. We're going to look at layers tonight and how you can work with layers. I'm then going to go through some of the Facebook posted images, give some feedback on them, and I've got a Lightroom 2-minute tip as well. We can do some live Q&A between all of that, so if you have questions, stick them in the live chat. If you're watching on replay, stick your questions in the comments. I do read and reply to all the comments there, and I will include them in a future show. Right, this giveaway. I still need to finish editing the video. I think I'm probably going to re-record it. I waffled a bit, which is one of the reasons I've been putting off posting it. Basically, I've got this book to give away. Cracking book by Tom Ang, Digital Photography Step by Step. Some really good tutorials and suggestions in there. Things that I've taught, other things that I haven't. But written in a nice, concise way. It's worth 20 quid. And I will give it away to someone who effectively says and comments on the video which I'm going to post about it. So this is a heads up on there. But, and this is why I want you to know about it now, I'm only going to do the giveaway when I get to 500 subscribers. So get telling people about my my YouTube channel. Get your friends, your camera clubs and whatever to sign up, because the sooner we get to 500, the sooner you're in a chance of winning that. So anyway, that's what it is. It's published by Dorling Kinders. I can never say that. Dorling Kindersley, written by Tom Ang, and it really is a great reference book. Very clear, very well laid out. Right. Q&A. What's been going on in the Q&A? Add any questions in there. Remember, there's that standard delay that we have to put up with. And oh, a few more names have appeared in here. Hi Robin, hi Amanda, John, and Andy says there was a little bit of a hiccup with the streaming. So I might have to change, have a look at the data rates on this, see if we can't get round that. Don't know why it comes and goes on there. If I knew what it was, I could do something about it. Anyway, there's no specific questions there yet. So let's have a look at feedback, our first part. Now, just to let you know, with the feedback, priority is given to the images which are emailed to me, and the place to email them is feedback@ians-studio.co.uk, and I check that mailbox a couple of times a week and download the images for feedback. So let's head over to Lightroom and have a look at what we've got in there at the moment. So here we are. I've got 5 images from 3 different people. Right, that's odd. I didn't think Amanda's came in via email. I'm just going to check that. I'll have to do it this way. Sorry folks, just bear with me a moment on there. Yes, it did. Right, I was wrong. It definitely came in via email. That, right, okay. So, back to this. So, let's start with this one from Ruskin. I'm just going to show it full screen for you. Looks like a Bengal tiger having fun in the long grass on there. Let's have a look at the settings on here. And created 10 days ago, a little over 10, 11 days ago. And exposure of 1,000th of a second at f5.6. And focal length 250. Right, okay, it's the equivalent of 375 millimeter. That's still closer to a tiger than I would want to be on there. He spot metered it. Good exposure on there. Now, with something like this, Ruskin, what I would do is I would try and tighten the shot up a little bit. So I would crop on this and I'd just bring it in slightly, try and create something with it on the third line like that. Might just extend a little bit that way, but I would go with something like that. Now, I think it just needs a little bit more bite to this image, and I'm just pondering the best way to achieve that. Is it a little bit dark? I'm just going to bring the exposure up and maybe the clarity and the dehaze a bit. I think it was a little bit blue as well, so I'm just warming it up a bit and a little bit of contrast in there. Touch on the texture. Now, have I got, yeah, we've got a couple of highlights. I'm just going to bring those down a fraction, shadows up just a touch. And I think I would go with something like that. So in terms of the processing, let's just have a look at the before and after. It's before and after. Maybe I've gone a little too far with the exposure. I don't know. Bring it back down. I think something like that with it. I like the playfulness of it, but there's a lot of dead space with it that's not. It's kind of hiding a little bit in the scenery. Now I know you can't control wildlife and all that on there. I think I'd be very pleased to get a shot like that, and it appears to be in focus. Although I think you've slightly focused forward on the grass on there with it, rather than on the eyes on that one. Yeah, nice attempt. Lovely playful sort of feel to the shot as well. So well done. Right, the next one was from Paul, who was having some trouble with this shot, and he was saying he's trouble getting the focus on there. Now, what's interesting with this? First of all, let me go to the shooting data on here. And let's see what settings you've got. Right. Okay, now I don't know whether you were on tripod with this, but the first thing to say is if you're shooting at a focal length of 300mm, you need to be shooting with a shutter speed of about 300mm, about 1/300th of a second to achieve that. Now, and actually, it's worse than that for you because you're shooting with a 4000D, which is a crop sensor camera. So we multiply that 300 by 1.6. So we are we're what? 300 times 1.6. So you're shooting. Cancel. 300 times 1.6. That's better. 480. So really, you want to be about a 500th of a second with that if you're hand holding. Now, if you're on tripod, that's fine. But I think you've got a couple of problems here. First of all, it's clearly very badly underexposed. So if I go into the develop module, we can see that we're what, 2 stops underexposed on there. It looks like there may be a flash going off. I don't know. Yeah, you used a flash on there. So actually, you've got another problem in that unless you were shooting with high-speed sync on there, you're not. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Let me think this one through. You've got the flash going off. That's why you're at a 60th of a second. So the flash is freezing everything. Hadn't spotted that you were working with a flash on there. So ignore what I was saying about hand holding. You should be okay because the flash should synchronize it. What's causing the blurriness? It could be a number of things on it. Your ISO 400, that's not going to help matters, but I'd have thought better for 400 that you'd have got sharper than that with 400, less noise. I think it's probably movement. I don't know whether you were hand holding. I don't know whether how you were keeping your subject steady, but you've got a very, very shallow depth of field. Certainly at 300mm, and certainly coming in close enough for the macro. So the slightest movement, even a couple of millimeters, will take you out of your out of focus, out of your depth of field. So the trick with this is to try and make sure your subject's head doesn't move. And one way to do that is to have them put the back of their head against a wall. Something like that, so that they're not going to move their head. The eye's going to stay exactly in the right position. Get your camera on tripod so that that's not going to move, because if you're hand holding it, you're likely to be swaying a little bit, which that slight sway is enough to take at this level out of your depth of field. So try things with that on there. Now, the other thing, let's have a look, 5.6, yeah. I don't think your lens, looking at that, the EFS 75 to 300, it's not going to be the sharpest lens in the kit in your bag, but if that is full frame on there, and I'm not convinced it is, then I'd have expected that to be sharper. If it's not full frame, and I don't know. It's really, really difficult with this one because it's already been cropped, and I don't know how you were actually set up to create it. Let me go on to your other image, Paul, which was one you sent today, which is a duck. Now, unfortunately, it's not brought through any of the shooting data. The problem is this was embedded into the email, and for some reason, I don't think it came through as an attachment. I think it was just embedded, and we've lost all the shooting data, so I can't really advise. And you said, how do you rescue something like this? The honest answer is you get your exposure right. Sorry to be so blunt on that, but that exposure is way, way off. And I can't tell you what you got wrong because I haven't got the shooting data on it, unfortunately. Can it be saved in post-production? Well, actually, not. You can do a certain amount with it, but as it's a JPEG, you can see just how noisy that's become. When I try to bring it up, you see all that noise in there. It's not sharp. There's not a lot you can do to rescue an image like that. I've had to go up 4.5 stops to get that at least vaguely visible. So there's not a lot you can do to rescue it. The thing that's important with it is get your exposure right in camera, and I don't know what settings you were on to be able to advise. Really sorry, Paul, on that. Okay, let's go back to this one of Amanda's, which is snowdrops. Let me look at the shooting data on here. Now, what have we got? Right, we're shooting with the equivalent of a 550mm lens. Near as makes no difference on there. Very high ISO. and shutter speed 125th of a second. Now, Amanda, same problem again. I don't know whether you were on tripod with this. If you were handheld, that would explain, first of all, why it's a little bit blurry, because I suspect there's a bit of camera shake going in there. I suspect there's that swaying between on that as you were taking it. What else have we got? Yeah, we've got a very high ISO as well. With something like this, I would get your camera on tripod, really. That's the way to do it, because you will have, you need to be at least 500th of a second to be perfectly sharp at that focal length with it, I'm afraid. So that will probably account for that, but I'm trying to look, see whether there's any bit of this that's in focus, and because it's all blurred, I would think that's almost certainly camera shake from not having a fast enough shutter speed. Of course, the advantage of being on tripod with it is you can bring that ISO down, because all that noise that you can see in there is simply due to the ISO on that. Sorry, that's not a very helpful thing. That's about all I could say and the advice I can give on that. Right, John Barton sent me this with his drone, and I'm not going to get into the debates of legalities, but again, John, I really need the raw file for this. What you sent me was a PNG, and of course that hasn't got any of the information, the shooting data in there for me to be able to advise on this with it. I'm not a drone user, so I can't advise how you would get a better angle on that, but I'd have been tempted to come down a bit, so I got a horizon in there. I think with it, the angles are all off on it as well, but if we straighten it up, we lose the top of the tower. I know you've only just got the drone and you're still learning to fly it and learning how to use it, but that's, yeah, you see, we've lost the top of the tower with the, once we correct the angles on there. I'd have come down lower with it, maybe shoot between the trees here so we get some framing on it with that. That's about the best I can say. If you can find the raw file, I think you said it's producing DNG files, we were talking about that on Sunday night's live stream, on going through your question on there. If you can find the DNG file and send that to me, you'll have to WeTransfer raw files. You can't attach them to emails. So if you do that, I can have another look at it next week, I think, and try and give you some advice. Sorry, not a very good so it's a bit negative, I'm afraid, tonight on all of those, but that's one of the things. So sorry, folks, on that. Let's have a look what's been going on in chat while I've been waffling away there. Right, okay, so I've got information about the duck. Right, it was shot in RAW at 1/800th of a second, ISO 100. Right, okay. What I would say about that is send me the RAW file, first of all, because the bits of information I need, it's not just about those settings, it's what mode the camera was in, whether you got any exposure compensation set, because that is ridiculously dark, as you're aware, and what we need to do is find out why that is underexposed. And that will be, I can find that out by looking at the other settings in there. Were you in manual mode? Were you in aperture priority, shutter priority? Were you in program mode? If you were in any of those, if you were in aperture and shutter, had you got exposure compensation set? Those sorts of things might explain why you're getting images like that. So have a look for that, that raw file. And use WeTransfer and send that to me, and I can give you a little bit more feedback on there. So that's all I can say. Sorry, it's not more helpful than that on there. Right, okay. Let's move on. Right. I've got the information here now. Oh, I'll just go back. It was in manual, right? In which case, you're not setting your exposure correctly. Look, I can't remember off the top of my head. Can I find out what camera it is? Did it at least have that information in one of your shots? Right. So bear with me, folks. Yeah, you're the 4000D. Right, I can describe what you need to do. Right. Sorry, just bear with me a moment, folks. I just want to check something else as well. Okay, so... Yep, okay, right. Let's head back over and look at the comments. Right, if you're in manual mode, can you remember what metering you were using on there? Because that might have affected it as well. If you were spot metering, it depends where you got the spot, at what point you've fixed your exposure with it. It's a little bit tricky to, again, without the full information. Normally, when you're in manual mode, that little display at the bottom, which that little gauge, there's a little marker underneath it. And as you change your shutter speed and your aperture, you'll see that arrow moving up and down. And you need to get it typically on the center point. Now, there'll be times more advanced where you want it either side of that, but initially aim to get it on the middle if you're shooting in manual mode. What I would suggest, if you're not familiar with manual mode and it's not intuitive to you, go to aperture priority at the time, for the time being. If you're getting shots like that when you're shooting in manual mode, I strongly suspect that you don't yet know how to use manual mode. Don't worry about that. That's not something to panic about. Start with something that's that will do some of the work for you. So go to aperture priority and try that. But in manual mode, you have to choose a combination of ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. You have to choose 3 values which will give you the correct exposure. The camera's not going to do any of that work for you. So it's entirely your decision on there. And I don't know what thought process you went through in coming up with the values that you've got, but it was wrong, to be blunt about it. It was wrong by about 4 stops. So I would go to aperture priority mode and try that type of shot again on there. And you will get there. And once you're familiar and you're getting reasonable results with aperture priority, then you'd start thinking about manual mode and start understanding that. I guess at the moment that you're not that familiar with manual mode and you're just starting out with it. So try working with that. I hope that's helped a little bit on there for you with it. Sorry, I can't really say much more, Paul, about it. Right, okay. At this point, I am going to carry on, and I'm going to play in part 2. Hey, it says part 2 this time. Part 2 of my beginner's guide to Photoshop. And this week, we're looking at layers. So here we go. Hello, welcome to this beginner's guide to Photoshop. In this video, we're going to look at layers. Hello, welcome to In Studio. I'm Ian M. Butterfield, and welcome to my beginner's guide to Photoshop. In today's video, we're going to look at the whole idea of layers. What are they? How would we use them? So let's head over to Photoshop and let's see what we can do with them. Right, okay, we've got an image here of desert scene with some camels in there. So let me go full screen, you can see it a little bit better. And this is going to be the image we're going to be working with. So why would we use a layer? Well, layers are down here. This is the panel, and layers are a way of working non-destructively. So I'm going to create a new layer. I hit the plus sign there, and we get this new blank layer. If I just hide the background layer, we'll see it's completely blank. That checkerboard means there's nothing on there. Now I'm going to keep that as my selected layer, and I'm going to do my adjustments to this, any changes I want to do it on this layer so that I can do it non-destructively. Let's take the clone stamp from here, and I'm just going to zoom in on this section of the image. And there are a few things in there. I've gone up to, let's go down to 100% on here. A few things we might want to remove. We've got a little bit of a mark down here. So clone stamp, you press the Alt key to select where you want to sample from. I'm going to sample from here, and I can then just simply paint over. And make that a little bit bigger using the right square arrow key. I'm going to sample from here, and you can see it shows me what it's going to do. So I'm now just going to paint over that section. It's not matched very well, but it'll do. Let's pick a little bit from around here. Just match that in and around there. Yep, that's fine. Now I've got this big rock over here. Let's see if we can't get rid of that. So I'm going to sample from just above it and start painting. Now, what's going on here? Well, what's happening is, if we look at the top of the screen, I've got the blank layer selected. I've got the settings on this clone stamp tool to say current layer and below. So it's looking for pixels on the current layer and what's below when I sample. So it's then allowing me to paint those onto the image. But where's it painting them? It's painting them on the blank layer. So let me finish the rock and we'll see why that's important. So let me just keep Alt just to sample, and I'm just going to sample around here. More or less got it now. I'm going to actually sample from the front here, from there, and just bring that round like that. And yeah, that will do nicely on there. Oh, got another mark here in the sand that I don't like, so I can select that, print out, and paint it out. Now all that is on this top layer. Let's just reposition this, and I'm going to hide the background layer, and you can see these sections are the bits that I painted. So these are my adjustment bits. My corrections to it. Bring the background layer in. Why is that a good thing? Because it means if I decide, well, actually, that rock really was important to this scene, I'd like it back. If I'd done all that onto the background layer, I couldn't do that. But now I can pick up an erase brush here. That's a very big erase brush. Bring it down. And I can just say, right, I'm on this transparent layer at the top. there. I'm just going to erase my adjustment and bring the rock back. Now we can use that idea on other things as well. Let's suppose I've got another photo here with a fallen statue. I'm going to bring that in, use the move tool, I grab hold of this and I hover over the tab that I want until it comes up. I then bring it down onto the screen and I just let go, and it's dropped it on there as a separate layer. Now, because it's a separate layer above everything else, I can move this around to where I want to place it. I want to place it round about here, I should think. Actually, you know, it's not easy to position it, is it? So it would be nice if I got some way of seeing where I want to position it. Well, guess what? We have. And we can use a thing called opacity to do that. Opacity is control. I've got the layer with the statue on selected. I can change the opacity down to say 50%, and you can see I can see through it now to see where my statue is. So I can now position the statue exactly where I want it. So I want it there, change my opacity back up. In fact, I'm just going to move it across on there. And now I can use that same trick that I did on that adjustment layer to reveal the background behind here. So let me take the delete brush again, make it a nice large one using the right square bracket key, and I can just start painting that out. And oh, whoops, I've gone over his head and a bit of the body. Oh, that doesn't look good, does it? Oh dear. Right. That was deliberate. I wanted to show you the problem of just using a delete brush like that. You can't undo it, or you can't selectively undo it. But there is a solution. I'm going to do Control-Z to undo all of that. And instead of using the delete, I'm going to use what's called a layer mask. Now, the layer mask is put in there using the option down here, which is the black circle on the white background. I do that, and it creates this layer mask attached to the current layer. And you can see here, that's now selected. It's got those little brackets around it. So that's where I'm going to be working. So what does a layer mask do? Well, a layer mask controls being able to see through the layer. So I can now take a paintbrush, and you'll see the layer at the moment, it's white, which means it's not allowing anything from below to show through. If I paint black on there, what's below will show through. So, for example, if I just do this, you can see now I'm starting to show through the camels and everything else that's under there. So I can now keep painting just to reveal what's underneath. Let me go full screen, you can see it's a lot better. I can just keep painting around and reveal the scene below. And I'm just going to make my brush much, much bigger on here, so I can do this quickly, and I'm going to do it very quickly. And you see now, I've got this scene, but I've gone over the statue again, as I did before with trying to do this. But fear not, if we look down here, we can see black at the top, white below. So if I change this over to white and use a smaller brush, I can start painting the white back in on here to say, right, don't show through what's below, just show me the statue. Let's get that in here. And I'm doing this very, very quickly because it's a tutorial. If I had more time, I could do this much more accurately. And I can paint him back in. all the way on there. Make the brush even smaller for the headpiece, coming through on there, like that. So, and just refine those edge bits, and a little bit up here. Again, I'm going to hit the X key to change from white to black, and I can just tidy this all up. We've got that little bit of a black shadow that I don't want on there. And something like that. So now what we've got is our statue with the camels behind. And we've got 3 different layers over here. We've got our background layer. If I hold the Alt key and press the little I button, it just reveals that one layer. We've got the background layer, hit it again, brings everything back. We've just got the corrections layer on there. And then we've got our statue on here. Now, you can see here that some of it's come through on there. X to make sure I'm on white, make the brush just a little bit larger, and I can just make sure all that's filled in and that there's no transparency on there. So we got that into the scene. Right, so we've got that, Alt and on there, and that's put it into the scene with the camels. Now that's a very quick tutorial. I've not done those edges particularly well, but hopefully it gives you an idea of what layers can do. You have one thing on top of another. It hopefully is giving you an idea a little bit about masking. I'll talk more about masking as we go on with this series. So next time we're going to carry on looking at layers, but we're going to look at how layers interact with each other, and we're going to talk about what's called blend modes. So see you in the next video for talking about blend modes. Bye for now. Right, and we're back live here in the studio. So that was part 2 of our beginner's course on Photoshop. Hope you found that interesting to try and get the idea of how layers work, because I know that was one of the things which has been one of the things that people were asking for. So there we go. Right, we've got no new questions in chat, so I'm just going to go over and have a look at the images which were sent in on Facebook for feedback. So here we are, back in Lightroom, and not so many this week, just 18 of them. Let's have a look. So start off with this one from Bernard, which is of St Paul's Catholic Church. I know that from the sign on there. Nice facade image, Bernard. Well done. You see, what Bernard's achieved here is the verticals are vertical. Don't know whether he's done that in post-production or just by holding the camera such that it's not tilting up on there. And we've got this nice square front on there, a classic facade of a building. Nice colours, very, very slightly underexposed. I think about a third of a stop, I would bring it up. Something like that. But that's about all on there. Well done, Bernard. Donata, again, Donata doesn't tend to watch because she doesn't speak English, but do like this, although a little underexposed. I would just bring that up slightly. I love what she's done with the clouds on there, and I presume that was done with a gradient in post-production to bring out that detail on there, and that really works with that image. Lovely shot there, Donata. Linda, a bit underexposed this one. Also the white balance is off on it. I suspect auto white balance got confused, but if I use the dropper to pick a white balance, that's a bit more like it should be. Let's bring the exposure up and bring the shadows up so that we can actually see the location that we're at. I'm going to bring it up even further on there, down a bit. So that is more what we need on there. So before and after on that. Well done for getting the verticals straight on there. That makes a huge difference with this type of shot. So well done on that. Just watch that exposure. I suspect what you would need to do in camera is use the exposure compensation just to lighten that image. Check it on the back, check your histogram, and then work out what you need to do with it. That one from Amanda we've already spoken about. Another one from Linda. The feet on a piano. I quite like this, but it just needs squaring up a little bit on there, which is an easy change. But other than that, nice abstract sort of shot on there. This is a great one from Adam. It's the one I chose as my image of the week for the Facebook group. I'm going to show this one full screen. I've got to, and it's a lovely shot. The only thing I would say is, for me, I would say it's for my style, it's a little underexposed. I'm not sure whether the image technically is or isn't on there, but I just wonder whether it just needs a little bit more like that. Now, I know, Adam, you have a very particular style with your images, and they're much less contrasty than my own style. So take what I'm saying with this with a pinch of salt on there, but I would tend to do that. Maybe just a little bit down on the blacks there. So let's just compare the two, that versus that. There's not a lot in it, and that's just showing you an alternative rather than saying it should be like this. I think what you have got is absolutely fantastic, and you'll notice I didn't do those adjustments when I used it for the group image. So well done with that. A really nice capture. I love this one from Donata as well. Great black and white conversion on there. Difficult to check the sharpness because it's such a low resolution copy. I'm assuming it's nice and sharp. It looks like it is. And the reason I wanted to bring this in, even though knowing that Donata will probably never hear these comments, is just so that everyone else watching gets to see this as an example of how just a detail tells a story. This is a great portrait, but it's just of the hands, and it says a lot about the person just looking at those hands on there. And I think it's really nice to capture. The only thing I will change is perhaps just a fraction more of that cuff on the edge there. I don't like the fact that it goes out and comes back in again. That's one of the things just to generally avoid, is image of items exiting and re-entering a frame on there. Robin, nice shot here of the weather vane, and lovely and sharp as well with it. Nice colours, nicely on the 1/3 line. Oh, I think there might be a couple of dust spots there. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just going to do the visualize and see whether it agrees with me. No, it's probably just formation in the clouds actually, rather than a dust spot. So, well done. John, interesting one. I like the little toy bus effect. I saw it first of all. I thought, what kind of transport is that? With only one wheel or one central wheel? And then I realised of course, it's a reflection in the glass. So very well done on there, nicely spotted. I love the fact that we've got this lead-in triangle at the top. In fact, yeah, I've got to go full screen on this one so you can see it. I love the sort of triangle leading in, and the shape of the bus in the middle. The fact that it is central is what works on here. It's one of those times, because of the mirroring, that a central image really does work on there. So well done with that one. Here we've got an image from Jan. It was done as part of the bingo challenge on the Facebook group. I think it just needs a little bit of a boost on the shadows. Not much, maybe a slight touch, third of a stop on the exposure. Now, with something like this, I think I know why the couple are running away from you. It's because you've got your camera with you. No, it's because with this sort of shot, we tend not to want, we don't know how people will react, so we tend to shoot them from behind. I would tend to go the other way with it. With something like this, I think this would have worked better if they were running towards camera. And there's ways of getting around that. If you have the camera as they're approaching, you can just hold the camera and just do this sort of action to indicate you want to take a shot and see what their reaction is. Sometimes they'll go, yeah, like that, or no, and you'll know that you can't. And that you can do that without interrupting them. And that would have got you a more interesting shot, I think, if they were running towards you. But it's well executed. If you are going to have them running away, I would try a slightly different crop. I would try and have them at the third of the image, something like that. And I think that works better because they're running into a space rather than having them in the middle with it. So those are my suggestions, Jan, for that one on there. A nice street shot from John here. I think it's a little tad underexposed, maybe needs a little bit more contrast with it, a bit more on the exposure. I think it needs to go up to there, but that's a good shot of the times with the people wearing the masks on there. Peter, bird in the tree, like the negative space on this. I think that does work. And one of the reasons it works is because what Peter is photographing here is actually the Sahara sands caught up in the weather system in France, and that really does work. Can't tell how sharp the bird is on there with that, but I think it all works. On there, exposure's good because of what we're doing. Yes, it's very much on the underexposed side, but that's because that sky, I think, needs to be. I don't know what colour the sky would have been for you. If it was a bit brighter, you might want to just bring up the exposure and bring up the vibrance a little bit as another way of doing it to capture the golden colour of the Sahara sands in there. Peter, really like this one of the ducks on the water. Very nearly picked it as my my banner image at the time because I love the colours, the sunset colours on there, and it's one that I think would possibly be even stronger for being made into this long, thin approach like there. Good exposure on there, really nice shot, Peter. Another shot, another misty shot from Adam on there, which I do like. I love this the scariness of heading off into the mist. Yeah, I think you're right with that. I'm curious to know whether my tweaks, how that would affect this image as well. So if I do that and then just say previous, we'll get my, yeah, I don't know. It's just a slightly different style of image with it. I mean, I like it like that extra little bit of bite to it, but there's a lot to be said for that version as well. It's quite murky, but the detail is still there. You've not lost any detail in the shadows, and that's really the trick with this kind of shot. If you're going to do underexposed or low-key images like this, make sure you're not losing detail in the shadow. So a lot of people, I'm going to simulate this now. They would present something. Oh, let me just reset this to your values. They would then present something where it's down like that, which actually has some of the, we're getting to the point where we're losing the detail in the shadows, so that we'd end up with something like that. If I take that off, you see how it's that spoils it, but you've managed to get it spot on. There's no detail lost there at all. So again, well done, Adam. Another lovely shot from Donata. Now, we've had a couple of those sort of street photos before, one from John and, oh, was it Amanda? No, Jan, the runners, where people aren't aware of the shot. I much prefer this kind of approach where you can see the people, and that we as a viewer know we've got permission to look at that photo, because Donata had obviously got permission while she was creating this shot in Dubai, I think, on there. And I think it's lovely black and white conversion with it. So think, folks, about how you interact with people with your street photography. I did a whole session on it a long while back about this thing about getting permission when you're doing street photography, and I'd encourage you, if you do that kind of work, look back at that live stream and think about getting your permission, either implicitly or explicitly, when you're doing street work. We can see here Donata has got it, so it's a good shot. I love the expression on both their faces on there. Robin, I'm yet to work out how you did this one. I presume it's one of your special lighting things, but on a water droplet on a surface, maybe on a CD, I don't know, to get these wonderful colours on there. It works really well, and good choice for putting it on the 1/3 line. I'd perhaps like to see a little bit more at the top, or if you can't get a bit more at the top, could we just tighten it up at the top? I don't know. Yeah, I think that would work as well. That little bit tighter at the top, and just have it on the 1/3 from the left on there. But yeah, really nice concept on that. And yet another good image from Adam. Now this is a bit more with the sort of contrastiness that I like in there. It's been desaturated a little bit. I was interested in what the colours would have been. I guess I can't bring them back. No, I can't. Not really. On there. But that desaturated look works well with it. So again, brilliant shot, Adam. Well done for your lone tree shot for the bingo challenge. That one of Ruskin's we've looked at, and I think that brings us to the end. Yes, it does. Let's have a look what's been going on in chat while I've been going through those. And absolutely nothing's been going on in chat. Right, okay, so let's move on then. Let's move on to our next video, which is a Lightroom 2-minute tip. It's a little bit more than 2 minutes, this one. I think it's about 5 minutes. So here we go.
Hello, welcome to another 2-minute tips video. In this one I want to talk about showing and hiding parents within the library module in Lightroom. Hello, welcome to In Studio. I'm Ian Butterfield. Now, it's always good to organize where you have your folders stored. So for example, you might want to organize your folders by year, as I have here. And under each of these years, I've got a number of folders. Now there's only a few folders in each year because this is my training catalog, but you can see each folder and the number of shoots within it. Now, if I go over into Lightroom, we really want that to be reflected in the Lightroom catalog. But as you can see here, I've got a top level folder for 2005, but for 2006, no top level folder. And even though these are stored like that within the folder structure I've just shown you, it's not reflected in Lightroom. And that can happen for a number of reasons, not least of all how you've imported your images. If you've imported from a top level and you've done a number of subfolders, you can end up with this sort of structure. So how do we solve it? The solution's really easy. We go over to any of these lower level ones and we can right click on it and say show parent folder. So that brings them all together, those 2008 ones, now within a 2008 folder on there. Or if you want to go the other way and decide, well, actually I want them all at top level, you can do it by clicking on one of these top level ones and say hide this parent. Now it's worth noting you can only hide a parent folder if it's actually the very top level one. So for example, if I try to hide this one, Stones, you can see it doesn't show up. I can hide 2011 because that's at the top level at the moment within the structure. So let me go through and do all of them. So now we've got all our folders at the top level within the display, but after a period of time you might decide that is getting a little bit unwieldy and you want to bring them together under their individual years. So do we have to go through every single one of them? No, we don't. Here's my final tip for this 2-minute tips video. I choose one of them and say show parent folder on that. Now if I then go up to that 2005 folder, you can see all the 2005 ones are in there, and do show parent on that, that brings in, because it's one level above, everything below there turns up. So all these subfolders have appeared, which does mean now if I hide photos one, so hide this parent, then hey presto, I've got all of them shown at the top level. So that's it for this 2-minute tip. Use hide and show parent to organize your folder structure within the library module of Lightroom. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Right, and we're back. So what have we got in chat? Nothing new in chat on there. Other than a couple of thanks from Adam. You're absolutely welcome, mate. So, time for us to wrap up, and for me to just say thanks for submitting images, and let me tell you what else we've got coming up on here. By the way, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to comment, don't forget to like on there. My thanks to Rick for the cuppa this week. Cheers, mate. And if you want to buy me a cuppa, the link's down below. Now on Sunday, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a live shoot here in the studio. It's a tabletop shoot. I'm going to set up, it's a love themed one, I'm going to create a couple of Valentine's style images using a book, using speed lights, and probably using a ring as well. So 2 different shots that I plan to talk you through how to create those in the studio. They're the sort of thing that you should be able to achieve at home. In fact, both times I've done the times I've done those images before, I've never done them in the studio, I just did them at home. So great ones, tutorials for things you might want to have a go at yourself on there. So that's Sunday. If you've got any love-themed images for Valentine's Day, post them to the Facebook group and I'll give feedback on those in a week's time. Or better still, email them to feedback@ians-studio.co.uk and I'll have a look at them there. Now you either email them to me there, or if it's a raw file, you're probably better using WeTransfer to send it to me so that everything's intact on that. And so that brings me to the end. So it just remains for me to say thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for taking part. And until next time, keep making great photos. Bye for now.